So welcome to the session, everyone. My name's Emma O'Sullivan. I'm the Marketing Executive for AXELOS, and I'm delighted to have with me Steve Bronsky. Steve is a highly experienced project and program manager, currently in training and consultancy position. He's accredited for Prince 2, MSP, P0, and Prince 2 Agile. So a few housekeeping bits just to run through. And so the agenda today, the session will be about 40 minutes with about 20 minutes Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, if you could just hit the Q&A button at the top of the screen, they'll come through to me, and then I'll pick out the best questions at the end of the session. And then those will be answered by Steve. So the agenda for the session, we're going to be talking about Prince 2 versus Agile. This kind of war between the two, and they've traditionally been seen as kind of opposing ideologies. And Steve's going to try and break down that barrier and explain why actually the two work very well together, and therefore why you should really get behind this Prince 2 Agile blend. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Steve.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for the introduction, Emma. The system tells me that my voice is being heard, so I'm just going to assume I am being heard unless I get told otherwise. There's a few people asking about microphones not working. It's just our microphones that will work, Graham, as far as I'm aware. So.
Sorry, just to interrupt, Steve. Just to let everyone know that you'll all be on mute. It'll only be me and Steve that can talk throughout the session. So if you do have any questions, any technical issues, you can see the chat box at the top. That's where you'll need to send through your queries to, and then we'll be able to pick those up. Sorry, sorry to interrupt, Steve. Back to you.
No, don't worry. Don't worry, Emma. Thank you. So I'm Steve, and what I want to do is really begin with just a very, very quick recap of both Prince 2 and of Agile, so that we can put the new guide into some sort of perspective. And this won't take long if you are familiar with them. So, but Prince 2 is the world's #1 project management method. It was originally designed by IBM, and its history can be tracked right the way back to the Apollo missions of the 60s. It's got a long and successful history. It was owned by the UK government for a long time, but now it's back in a private partnership with government, and things are really beginning to take off as a result of that. But Prince 2, it stands for Projects in a Controlled Environment. And I think the term controlled environment can and has been deeply misunderstood. It's not meant to be a control freak environment. It's meant to be a quality controlled environment. And that's one of the main focuses of Prince 2, is it has a focus on quality control. That's really, so we're talking about Prince 2 and projects in a controlled environment. It's projects in a quality controlled environment. Agile, on the other hand, has a much shorter history than Prince 2 and project management. And this is my personal belief, and that's because the available technologies didn't really allow it to exist. But by year 2000, the IT infrastructures that we all now rely on so much, and kind of, evidenced by this very seminar, has been developed in such a way as to enable us to make and enable rapid change. In fact, it could be argued that a lot of the Y2K projects shook off the problems of the past. Lots and lots of infrastructure was replaced with much more flexible systems, mainframes being placed with Unix or open source systems, built on the back of solid mainframe concepts and object-oriented programming. That allows everything to become automated, and that allows Agile to become viable. You need a good, solid infrastructure behind it to enable Agile to kind of function And that's just my belief, actually. But however, Agile doesn't and never has attempted to manage business change. Agile is about product development, and to date it has mostly been used as business as usual for software developers. It is not really about project management, it's about the development of software. That's what it was developed for. It doesn't mean it is and can only be used for software, because there's not many projects these days that have no software elements in them at all, to be honest. But AXELOS has identified a gap in the market and attempted for the first time, I think, to successfully blend the two together for the very first time. So that's what we're going to talk about. A little bit waffle about Agile and Prince2. Feel free to shout questions into the Q&A session as we progress. So, what is Prince2 Agile? Like I said earlier, Prince2 has been the de facto project management method for a long time now, and Agile is being increasingly used for software product developments, and we can either throw one away and say that everything can be Agile, or we can say that everything can be project managed because we now know how to do it properly. The reality is a little bit more complex, and what you tend to find is the more mature Agile environments, the more likely you are to find some project management. And I believe conversely, the more mature a project manager is, the more Agile they can and are. And I think all good project managers are Agile already. And I'd like also to say that all good Scrum managers, good Scrum masters I should argue, are probably good project managers. They don't know it yet, and I think that neither of the two know it yet, but to say good project managers are already Agile, good Scrum masters are probably good project managers as well. Don't call themselves that, but you don't have to be called something to be good at it. It's just a label. So why does the world need Prince2 Agile? That's what the whole seminar is all about. And I believe there are three reasons. I'm sure there are others, but this is basing it around the three main things for me. One is there is a battle between Agile people and project management people. It's sort of undeniable. One only needs to look at the Agile literature and the Agile websites to see it. We're going to talk more about it later, but for now, there are some people in the Agile world who feel that anybody with even the title of manager is, by definition, counterproductive, and they will be far better off without them. And there are some project managers and project people who think that the Agile world is complete and utter uncontrolled chaos. Okay? We're going to talk more about it later. So that's the battle between project management versus Agile. And a little bit about misleading competition as well. Prince2 is not the only project management guide on the planet, and as other organisations mature, they've produced some good guides to rival Prince2's dominance. And let's face it, Prince2 is the dominant project management method in the world. It's the world's most used method. And I personally, I'm very lucky. I've been lucky enough to travel the world, helping people learn and apply and improve their projects by using Prince2 in a very flexible way. And again, I'll elaborate on this a little bit later, but there is competition out there claiming to be Agile in its project management. And that means people are actually relearning a project management method. They're learning nothing new, and they're replacing Prince2 language and techniques with a very, very similar language. And I don't think people are aware that this is what's happening. And it's been said many times since Keith Richards and his team created the Prince2 Agile Guide. Prince2 was already agile. Nothing at all needed to change in the existing Prince 2 guide to make it agile. It was already agile, and as I say, kind of good, experienced, confident project managers would already have some degree of agility, whether they knew it or not. But the third reason, as I say, we'll come back to all these points in a moment, but the third reason relates to how we get information these days. We get information by Google. We Google for information. If you want to learn about almost anything, you can. The information costs us nothing. And therefore, you could argue that the information has zero value in itself. And the AXELOS suite of products have two advantages over Google. They have worldwide respected qualifications, and they are, this is the most important bit, practical applications of theory. They're not theory, they're not just information, they are practical applications. And as I say, we'll come back to all of these things as we progress, but those, for me, are the three reasons why the world needs yet another project management guide. So, let's take a look at the battle that's been running between project management and agile. It's been raging for a few years now, and project managers are getting a little more defensive as they see agile actually working, and scrum masters and the like are starting to worry that they're losing out in the corporate world we all tend to grow into. And so you've got a need for agile to demonstrate that they've got things under control. And whether we like it or not, we need things under control. I mean, we have things like Sarbanes-Oxley and a multitude of regulations coming from all sorts of government bodies and trade bodies, and we all need to adhere to those things. And that means we need to be able to audit things, whether we like it or not. That's what the corporate world is about, and as all organisations grow, more and more of that becomes relevant. So we can be very, very agile, or we can be very, very controlled, or we can blend the two. And this is what the guide's really all about, blending the two. So looking at, should it really be Prince 2 versus agile? Or should it be about controlling? So it's not kind of Prince 2 is, as I say, perceived to be all about control, but it's just a perception. Agility is perceived to be very, very rapidly changing, and most of the battle between projects and agile stem from, it has to be said, the software development arena, where most agile stuff happens. The vast majority of agile stuff happens in the software development arena, so we shouldn't be surprised by the fact that that's where the battles tend to be. Prince 2 Agile does not advocate that there is a battle between the two. It shows how the two can happily coexist and deliver real business benefit and value and get the best of both worlds. I actually attended a meeting of the London Agile group a few years ago, and the real reason, if I'm honest, was because there was free beer. But I sat and watched astounded as one side of the room there were project managers, on the other side of the room sat the Agile Scrum teams, and they were basically throwing verbal bombs at each other. The project managers considered the Agile people to be uncontrolled wastrels and just do whatever they feel like doing, and are dangerous beings who refuse to plan. And they say things like, behind every agile project there was always a project manager who knew how to manage projects the good old-fashioned way, but the agile people couldn't see it. And agile people, they were there considering the project managers to be a complete waste of space and knew nothing at all about product development, and spend their time producing reams and reams of useless documentation and could never ever be agile. And this was the battle I saw in this meeting. And whenever one side tried to defend itself against the other side would belittle them. For example, the one statement I made when that was made when a project manager was trying to say, well, we do incremental development, and the answer that came back from the Agile group, well, that's not Agile, that is just simply phased waterfall, you don't know what you're talking about. And then on the other side, we would get project managers coming back with the retort that, well, you kind of, the only documentation you guys do is to put post-it notes on the wall, and maybe you work for post-it as salesmen. You know, there was that sort of battle between the two. It was quite amusing to sit and watch, to be honest. As the evening progressed, everybody ended up sort of friends, but you could see there was a real battle between the two. But the fact is, Agile recognises Prince 2. And Prince 2 is Agile if you want it to be. Most, as I mentioned earlier, mature Agile organisations put some form of project management wrapper around Agile. And Scrum of Scrums is just one example. And I have to say that I may get attacked by making that statement, to be honest. As happened in the meeting when we talk about Scrum of Scrums. But for me, the Scrum of Scrums is essentially what project managers try to achieve. But I've got a personal theory over where and why lots of the Agile stuff actually developed. This is my personal view, nothing else. I've got this view that it was developed as an anti-management method. It was, and as I hasten to add, this is a personal theory, developed because so many managers are real control freaks. We all work for bad managers, haven't we? And particularly in the States, there's a view of management. It's my way or the highway. You've got to do it this way, and I will control what you do. And of course, software developers are actually kind of bright and tend to be quite motivated people. And I think they've decided to dispense with their bosses, the bad ones. In the past, I think we described this as X and Y theory management. X means, no, I don't trust you to do anything X, you can't do anything, and Y means, yes, you will be able to do things and you will do things for me. And I think this X and Y theory management, now we call it Agile management and traditional management. And I tend to find that the Agile world is full of Y-type managers, and the traditional, as we call it, is full of X-type managers. So maybe that's where the conflict lies. So they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and that is no doubt right, but the imitation should serve to improve the original. And the imitation should be as good as the original. It should build on it and improve it. And sadly, that's not always the case. And people are today paying considerable sums of money to attend training courses, and they realise when it's too late that the alleged qualification has little or no value in the real world. So that's what we're going to move on to now. And I think we can see from these facts and figures that you can see here, it's a UK-based survey, and I think you can see from these figures that Agile is not going away. It's coming to a project near you soon. Whether you like it or not, it is coming. You might sit there saying to yourself, well, I'm kind of safe, I don't work in software development, but you should ask yourself how many projects have no technology elements in them at all. Even construction projects can have very complex building management software. Almost all manufacturing has some degree of software embedded within the products or on the production line. As a result, there are some competing methods out there, and they're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad. I will say I don't think they're as good as Prince 2 and Prince 2 Agile, but that's just my opinion, and I do admit to a certain amount of bias. But you can see from the facts of the figures that Agile is not going away. And we takes back to we're sort of discussing some misleading products on the market. Some are misleading because they've got no real value and will eventually, I believe, fall into disrepair as people realise that the certificate was awarded to them simply because they turned up for a couple of days, not because they learned anything. It's going to be unfair to name them specifically, and I don't propose to name them specifically, as not all of them are bad, but you should be aware of the fact that not everything has the credibility that may be yourself. Some are misleading because they cover just one aspect of Agile, and you'll come away thinking that you understand it, and then you enter the dragon's den of work, real work, and then you find the realization is actually you've learned one part of Agile things, and lo and behold, all of a sudden that one part doesn't work when you take it into the real world. Although, I mean, it could be argued that some accreditation suffers from the same, but I'm going to come to that next. But the biggest misleading claim is that you're learning something new when you're not. It's the same thing wrapped up in different words. Snake oil, I think our friends in the States call it, and it's been around for a long, long time. What you do not need to do is learn a new project management method in order to be Agile. You do not have to take my word for it. The best Agile brains in the world have looked at it and looked at Prince 2, and they've concluded that Prince 2 does not need to change at all. It is already Agile. You don't need to learn anything new about project management. What you need to learn is how to combine the two together. Prince 2 Agile covers everything you need to apply Agile techniques practically in a controlled manner without the conflict. It helps you to understand how to write an Agile contract with your suppliers. So there's lots of standalone techniques. This focus on this, and iterative and time box is what most people see Agile as, but it's far more than that. It's the only Agile project framework which covers the full spectrum of Agile. It's got the inclusion of Scrum, which is the vast majority of it, Kanban, Cynefin, Lean Startup, and unlike other project management methodologies, Prince 2 Agile explains how they work and how to incorporate them into the project environment and the corporate environment. And I think most importantly for most of us, and the reason why we do these things, is the qualification bit in the middle. The qualification for Prince 2 Agile does not just test recall. You cannot just turn up at any of the AXELOS best practice guides, to be honest, any of the core, and just simply take an exam and pass it. Life is not like that. It tests the practical application, and this is one of the key things that gives AXELOS examinations real credibility. And of course, they are called practitioner exams, and so they test at a practical level, not a theoretical level. And they're not perfect. Everyone would agree they're not perfect, but they do. You cannot pass a Prince 2, an ITIL, an MSP, a Prince 2 Agile exam. You cannot pass it just by turning up. You have to put some effort in, and you have to put it into practice, and the practice is done in a safe training environment. So let's move on to the next bit. I know Prince 2 quite well. And I could really enjoy my role as a trainer. I help people understand and apply Prince 2 and Agile. And I did a search recently to find out what information was out there on the web to help delegates pass their foundation exam. Okay? So I did a quick search. So let's go and find out if people really need to come on a course to learn Prince 2 Foundation. Okay? And I can tell you, everything is out there. Literally everything. You don't need to pay for the information at all. Everything you need to pass a foundation exam is out there. So why do people come on courses then when the information is out there? It's the information, not the knowledge. And knowledge is not about information, it's about the practical application and use of that information. And that's why people come on training courses, that's why people study hard for their foundation and practitioner exams. It's not about collecting information, it's about the practicalities of it. For example, the official Scrum Guide is freely available and it's less than 10 pages long. But how you apply the guide isn't out there. And that's where the value of these guides is. They are other people's practical experience. They are not theory, and the real exams are called practitioner for a reason. So, Prince 2 Agile is all about using Prince 2 and Agile in the right place. Combining them together like the ingredients of a cake, blending until you've got a perfect mixture. But it does it in a very practical way. All the AXELOS methods are practical. It's called best practice. And I have to say, if you do some study of the Agile world, you'll find that that gets misunderstood and misinterpreted too. Some people assume because something is called best practice that there can be nothing better. But best practice is the best we know, and it can and does and will improve. It's not that best practice is meant to be practical, pragmatic, flexible guidance. And Prince 2 scales to any size of project in any environment. Combining business change with product development is what Prince 2 Agile does. So Prince 2 scalable, Prince 2 Agile scalable. And when we talk about business change and product development, I think we all know, if you think about it, you think of a project, an IT project, for example, that was developed at great expense, an awful amount of effort put into developing an IT system that nobody ever used. Now, that should never happen, but we all know of circumstances where it has happened. And Prince 2, Agile, combining the two together, this Agile project management development, along with the Prince 2 focus on a clear business case, means that business change and product development should integrate together. We all work in corporates. We might not like what senior managers do and say, but without the corporate world, most of us are out of work. So Agile isn't particularly corporate friendly. Corporates doesn't always like and value the very, very good work that Agile teams do. And this guide enables Agile teams to be corporate friendly. Both project managers and Agile teams have things to offer. They are not mutually exclusive. The best of both worlds is what this is trying to achieve. Not a battle between the two. They've both got good things to offer. And it talks about control and good governance as if Prince 2 has the only control bit. But actually, when you look at Agile, it's got far more control than Prince 2. They might not recognize it. Agile people may not even recognize it, but it has a tremendous amount of control. But the control is voluntary. And type X managers don't believe it. Type Y managers will happily do it. And in Prince 2, we've got this concept of management by exception. Management by exception is kind of developed really for type Y managers. I trust you to get on with the job. If you need any help, come back. But I trust you to get on with the job. And that's exactly what Agile is. Trusting people to get on with the job. They build the controls in for themselves. Agile teams build the controls themselves. They don't need a project manager telling them how to control it. And Prince 2 has never told anybody how to control things. It's just got this control framework. And Prince 2 is flexible, pragmatic. It hasn't always been applied that way, and this guide will help us not only understand and how to apply Agile in a very practical way, but also to make sure we don't get hung up on things like Prince 2 says this and therefore that I have to produce this document. Prince 2 has always been descriptive, not prescriptive. Prince 2 produces a plan. Agile produces a plan, but in a very different way. Prince 2 estimates things. Prince 2 doesn't tell you how to estimate. You can estimate using very agile, flexible techniques, such as planning poker, if you understand what that is. You can have a plan with post-it notes on the wall, or you can have a plan with an elaborate Gantt chart and time frames on it. Both of them are plans, and Prince 2 doesn't care what type of plan you use. And if you're still unconvinced that Agile's got something to offer, then the final bullet point is what this is all about for you guys. To help you understand that there is method in the apparent Agile chaos. I don't believe it's chaos, but then I've always been a sort of Y-type manager, if I'd like to admit that myself. So, there was a top management consultancy recently announced that we should not build a change program, we should build a change platform. What you are looking at here is the change platform. You do not need to pay management consultants to tell you how to do these things. There's a whole suite of practical guides out there, and all you need is to help lead and control, flexibly control change in any organisation of any size. That's what these guides are there for. They're practical. A bit of training will help you understand these guides, but as a trainer, I would say that, wouldn't I? If you're looking to employ people to help you through change, make sure they're qualified in some of these, and you won't go far wrong. And in this ever-changing world, the one thing that remains constant is AXELOS' commitment to nurturing this best practice as a community worldwide. Prince 2 Agile, you can see fitting at the bottom there, along that bit about project management, which is all about business change. Projects, programs, portfolios, management of risk at every level, not just program level, management of value at every level, not just projects and programs. P3O, sometimes people could describe that as PMO, which is kind of supporting business change from an office perspective. And ITIL drives business change. The Agile community calls ITIL DevOps. It's roughly the same thing. And P3M3, as you grow and mature, then you'll see your ability to manage business change, grow and mature too. So that was me. I hope I haven't taken up too much of your time. It's about we thought it would be about half an hour. So can I hand back now to Ema, who will take your questions, please. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. If you're still out there.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
I thought I'd better check after last time. Okay, great. So now we'll just move on to Q&A. I thought I'd better quickly mention that this webinar is being recorded and it'll be emailed to you all on Monday. So if you'd like to just watch it again or share with friends or colleagues that you think might find this interesting, then please do. Okay, so moving on to Q&A. Let me quickly run through some of the questions. Okay, so we have a question. How is Prince 2 Agile perceived as a technique globally? Is it a methodology primarily used in the UK and Europe, or is it used elsewhere? Steve?
Well, it's growing. It's new, isn't it? It was only kind of released in the middle of last year. But Prince 2 is global, worldwide. I personally have trained Prince 2 and helped people apply Prince 2 right away across the world, from Hawaii to South America, all across the States, all across Europe. We've got offices in South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Dubai, in the Middle East. So Prince 2 is worldwide and has worldwide credibility. Agile is known in software development worldwide, and the Prince 2 Agile Guide will, I believe, very, very rapidly become the de facto standard for that as well.
Yeah. I think we have a fact, last year Prince 2 exams were taken in 153 countries around the world.
Wow.
So it definitely is the world's #1 project management methodology, and you know, with the kind of new wave of Agile, Prince 2 Agile will be getting there shortly, I believe. And we have a question from Sarah. Is Prince 2 Agile an extension to Prince 2? If I don't hold a Prince 2 qualification, is there a direct route to Prince 2 Agile? So I think I can probably answer this one, Sarah. So at the moment, it is required that to take Prince 2 Agile, you do need to have a Prince 2 practitioner. This is because, I mean, the whole point of Prince 2 Agile is it's this kind of blend. It's tailoring Prince 2 in an Agile context, so therefore it does require this kind of solid foundation of Prince 2, hence why it's set at the practitioner level. However, at the moment we are actually trialling in Germany. We're just doing a short trial for a month, lowering the kind of prerequisite to foundation level. And if this does prove to be successful, and if people are able to pass Prince 2 Agile, having just that Prince 2 foundation, then this is something we might consider to do en masse. Do we have any more? Oh, just had one come through. What are the benefits for this method in relation to the DSDM Agile project management approach? Steve, I think that's one for you.
Yeah, DSDM Agile PM is a competitor. So they do the same thing. I am biased, and I believe a combination of Prince 2 and Prince 2 Agile is better because it tells you how to do it. And DSDM doesn't. It just tells you what you should do rather than how to do it. And as with most management guides assume everything goes well. I've yet to work in any project where everything went well. And these guides, none of these guides assume things go well. They assume things will go wrong. So that kind of makes some sense. So in terms of DSDM, it's kind of the Agile PM is a competitor to Prince 2.
Okay, great. So another question's come in. I'm a Prince 2 practitioner. Would Prince 2 Agile or MSP be considered as a stepping up the ladder?
I think it very much depends on a personal, individual development path. If you want to be a professional project manager in today's or even tomorrow's world, to be perfectly frank, you know, I do a lot of work with young graduate managers in several organisations, helping them sort of understand traditional management, and their view of the world is very, very different from my management view of the world. Prince 2 Agile is, I think, beginning to bridge the gap between today's view of management and tomorrow's view of management. Which for me, I look at some of these graduates and I think, you know, these guys are just far too sensible for their own good. Really, I remember when I was that age, I was nowhere near as sensible. But I admire that these guys coming through. There's an old song, "Wonderful World," and the lyrics in it say, "I watch babies grow and they'll learn much more than I'll ever know." And as I get older, I realise that's true. And for me, this is what this guide is going to do. It's going to bridge the two.
Yeah. The next question: if we can we use Prince 2 Agile in construction projects?
If you want to, yes. I think in the there's kind of an example of large construction projects are usually very much what we describe as a waterfall, and where we would specify what the building needs to do, and then we would erect the building to the specification, and you wouldn't be tremendously agile in the construction world. However, parts of that construction project will be what we describe as waterfall, and parts of it will need to be very, very flexible and prioritised based on things like kind of how much money has it cost them to do the construction work, what problems have happened in the interim. You know, kind of we have a building, and let's say we're kind of the funds suddenly kind of disappear. How can you use that building? And when you're equipping a building and putting building management systems in, for example, then you'll find that there's a lot of the agile stuff might be valuable to you. I have to say, you know, the vast majority of the agile community is around software development, flexible software development. But if you can be flexible in your projects, that for me, that's one of the key things about project management, isn't it? Is you need to be flexible. If things go well, you don't need a project manager. And Agile gives you some great techniques to help things go well, I have to say. So yes, it can be used. It wasn't developed for the construction industry, and I think you know, hopefully, you know, kind of people will look at it and gain value in the construction industry. But you have to realise that its roots were software development.
Okay, great. Next question. I'll be completing my university degree in engineering in a few months, and he's also considering the Prince 2 certification, and he's asking, can I start straight away? Yes, I think that's the beauty of Prince 2. I mean, you'll obviously benefit if you have some kind of prior understanding of project management, but there's a lot of project management guides out there which require, for example, you've got the PMBOK guide in the US, and that requires something like 4,000 hours of management training. Prince 2 is different. Prince 2 is, I don't want to call it an entry level, but you can take Prince 2 at the outset of your career to make sure that you're not, you know, you're getting the right habits and the right methodology from the get-go. So yes, you can start straight away. And finally, I think if we close with this one as the last question, Steve, someone's asked, can you briefly summarize again the high-level concept of Agile? How does it actually work in a nutshell?
Yeah, in a nutshell, Agile is about developing product, and it has a fixed time frame. Some people call it a sprint, but it's a fixed time frame, and let's just say you have 4 weeks, and in that 4 weeks there is a list of things that need to be produced called products, and we have a backlog of these products, and those products need to be prioritized, and during those 4 weeks the most important products will be developed, and then if there's any time left, some of the less important products will be developed based on a prioritization mechanism. And then at the end of that period, usually 4 weeks, what has been produced is delivered to the customer, either as part of a bigger package or an individual package, and then every 4 weeks the same thing happens. So it's a very, very rapid incremental delivery of something early during your project. A lot of it you can see, and again I'm going to go back to software development, but you know, when you buy a new, for example, when let's just kind of say LinkedIn, for example, was first released to be a very, very simple application. Now it's very, very complicated, and there's lots of apps associated with it. But when it was first developed, it was a nice, simple thing to see if anybody wanted to buy it. And you can do the same sort of thing to help you prioritize things in a project. And what it does, by fixing time and fixing cost, it enables prioritization to really happen, because most prioritization, people only deliver the most important things, and the less important things never ever get delivered. And that's the biggest problem with prioritization. With Agile, having this fixed time frame, it's a little bit counterintuitive in that if you've got a fixed time frame, you actually deliver the most important things. Plus, because there's a fixed time frame, you will deliver some other bits as well. And we learn, reflect, and then plan the next bit. And then we learn and reflect and plan the next bit. And then we learn and reflect and plan the next bit. And that is Agile in a nutshell. And that's roughly how Prince works as well, because we have stages where you learn and reflect and plan the next bit, and you learn and reflect and plan the next bit. So does that sort of help with that? I haven't got a slide I can show you on that one. Maybe I should have done. Maybe well, I'll add a slide from the guide to this slide set before we send it out to you, which has been created by Keith, and it kind of beautifully shows graphically the Agile iterative development process.
Yeah, okay, great, that sounds useful. Okay, everyone, well, I think that's the end of the Q&A. Thank you for joining, thank you for sending in your questions. And yeah, just to kind of reiterate, the session will be recorded and you will be sent a copy on Monday along with the slide deck. Just a final note, there is a feedback survey which should be popping up once the session ends. So I'd really appreciate it if you could just take a couple of minutes of your time to fill in the survey for myself and Steve. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Emma. We'll speak soon. I'll just move on to the final slide so everybody can see if you want more information. Visit the AXELOS.com website. Thank you.